This episode is sponsored by Bigger City. Thank you so much for supporting us and helping our show to grow.
Hello and welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. I'm Trevor Keyson, I'm a super chub, and I'm a Fat Liberation Month boy. We're already halfway through Fat Liberation Month.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but we're not full yet.
Are you fat? Are you liberated? Yeah. Happy August, everyone.
My name is Mike Willer. I'm a chubby chaser. I still have a cough, unfortunately, and Dan just kind of killed me with that joke. So I'm catching up. I like that. We're not even full yet. I like it.
Hey there, my name's Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and today I am a candied chai boy because I think I forgot that I put sugar in my tea when I put sugar in my tea.
And you put more sugar in your tea?
And I might have put a little bit more sugar in tea on top of the sugar I put on top of my tea. So yeah, I'm vibrating with sugar and caffeine right now.
Oh, most excellent.
Welcome. Join us.
Hi, I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And yes, today I am a busy bee boy. I have so much to do.
Busy bee boy.
This is my show opens that I've directed is opening this week, or the
Break a
16th of
leg.
Thank you so much. And so
break everyone's legs.
Break everyone's legs. No, don't do that. And so, super busy. And I just want to say, Don, about your tea, better extra sugar than mistaking the sugar for salt.
Oh no.
See?
Oh, did that happen?
No, but see, that's candied, like you said.
Thank you to all of our patrons on Patreon. With your support, we make the show go.
Yeah, we do.
Vroom, vroom.
Also,
fast.
Thank you to Bigger Bash. We're in the final countdown. We'll be in Las Vegas, September 6th through 8th. Mm-hmm. Bigger bashing it up. We'll be there. We'll be doing some little on the ground work.
Yeah, we finally settled on what we're actually doing while we're there.
Yes.
And I think it's inspired.
Yeah. Basically, we're just going to bring like a small little, one-on-one style interview kit and just like talk to people that are there about, if you have a story to share about being in the community, being, a chub chaser, whatever, anything relevant to the subjects we cover on the podcast, we're happy to like talk to people, and it doesn't have to be part of that interview. But if you want to share your story, we can record it. We can use it on a subsequent episode and kind of put it all together.
Have a chat with one of us. Let's have a real exchange. I'm looking forward to meeting some more of our listeners out there.
Yeah. And be on the show, maybe.
Yeah. Also, thank you to our partners, Big Fig and Bearskin. Maybe get a mattress before, Bigger Bash. Maybe get some cute shorts, some swim trunks, and you can use promo code
shorts.
Big Fat Gay Pod to get 15% off your order and support the show.
For Bearskin.
Yes.
Also use the link on our website if you want to give us a little kickback for your Big Fig mattress order. You get a discount. We get the kickback. Everybody wins.
Mm-hmm. And just thank you for listening, listener. Let's start this pony show down the road.
The pony. What? Okay, pop culture. Let's start off with a nice story, a fun story, a pleasant story.
Let's do that.
So in Deadline, which is a sort of film industry trade paper, we start with the headline: Scotty Landis tapped to pen Thick, THICC, a comedy about offensive lineman turned male model for Paramount Pictures. Now
there's so much jargon in that headline.
Yeah, it's a movie, people. He's making a movie.
It's a movie that a screenwriter has been picked to write.
Right.
I think our audience would mostly know Scotty Landis as the writer of Ma.
Yes, that's true.
Which is actually like very amazing.
It's a good movie.
I was blown away. I do have some, feelings, some fat feelings about, like, I don't think Scotty Landis is fat. I was kind of...
No, not a bit.
Like, Googling and like, is he at least like maybe...
His qualification to write this is that he wrote another movie called The Machine, which stars a fat stand-up comedian doing his most famous routine about being called the Machine because when he was in college, he was with the Russian mafia and blah, 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 blah. Comedy ensues. Anyway, he wrote that, and that stars a plus size, that has a plus size star. So naturally, he was picked to do another movie with a plus size star.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting about this is, while the story seems to follow like an offensive lineman who, after a career-ending injury, cut his professional football dreams short, finds unexpected fame and fortune in the world of brawny male modeling, and that's sort of the storyline. It's the inspiration is taken from this New York Magazine interview called "At the Russian Baths with the Big Boys of Brawn."
Yeah.
Welcome to the frontier of plus size modeling, which is really interesting. And Zach Miko is one of the people sort of primarily featured in this article, sort of talking about like the inception of IMG Models' sort of new division of brawny, which is plus size male models.
Yeah.
The connection is the screenplay. The idea for the screenplay is based on the article. And if I can give it away, the article will have nothing to, Zach Miko has nothing to do, even though he's the major source of the article, he is completely excluded from the movie. So far.
Yeah. So when this article came through my aggregator, I'm like, oh, so like this is about Zach Miko? So I went to his Instagram and he made a video addressing this, and he's like, yeah, so like my phone was blowing up and everyone was congratulating me and I have nothing to do with this movie. I'm like, I haven't heard anything.
He was very confused.
Yeah. And there still hasn't really been an update. A lot of people in the comments of that Instagram post were like, hey, so like maybe you should contact a lawyer or something, like just to
it's
safe.
not actionable. It's not actionable.
I find it strange that, well, not strange. I'm dubious of, I guess I'm going in sort of cautious of a movie that is a comedy about fat people called Thick. And it seems not to be written by a fat person. Maybe Scotty Landis used to be fat. We don't really know. Mm-hmm. But I'm like waiting to be slimed. I hope it's not that.
I will say after Ma, I trust him a little bit.
Okay.
That character felt very real and felt very grounded in issues that I deal with, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the writer here. I'm worried about the studio, because the studio is like, wow, look at that article. Fat people as human beings is something that's blowing up, and we should be all over that. And what could be safer than featuring a football lineman as a main character?
That's a pretty safe. Yeah.
I counter that with I was thinking about, like, we've talked about a lot of fat film and TV projects that have not been made in the 4 years of us doing this podcast. True. A lot of things where it's like, whatever happened to that?
And to be clear, this is to write the screenplay for it. This is not going into production. This is not anywhere close to being made yet. So, and
to, I don't know, counter your point about the studios, Dan, I can see the studios being like, fat people as humans is so 2022.
I was curious because I, of course, went to The Whale in my head. And I was like, who released that? That was A24. Yeah. So A24, shame on you. But it wasn't Paramount. So who knows?
But it fits right into their canon of body horror.
Right. Yeah.
But our next spotlight is on a subject that is much more near and dear to my heart.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God. Okay. Oh, I'm so excited.
I'll be back when you're all finished.
Yeah. So this is, I don't know, I pulled the article from Collider just to kind of have something that people can read before they watch, but there is a new Batman animated series called Batman the Caped Crusader that is
made by the creators of the original Batman the animated series, which
Bruce
is really
Timm.
exciting.
Oh my God. Oh, so you got to calm down. But so this is it's Batman in the early days of his career, and it is leaning into the 1940s, like early Batman comic style.
The actual start of Batman, where it was Detective Comics #1.
Yes.
Like OG stuff.
Non-comic book people, don't worry. I'll tell you when to come in.
Yes. But even though they're drawing from the early comics, they are taking a lot of inspiration from like newer Batman stuff and changing some things up.
Reimagining some characters.
But so there was an article in Collider written by Shane Rumenchik, and it is talking about so not only like part of this new Batman animated series is there's a lot of star power behind it. So they interviewed Jamie Chung and Minnie Driver, who play Harley Quinn and the Penguin, respectively. That's
Yes.
right. We did it, America. The Penguin can be a woman now.
What I like about that, again, as a non-comic book person, I like what Minnie Driver said. She's voicing the Penguin,
Yes,
whose name is
Oswalda Cobblepot.
Oswalda. And what I love that she said is she compared it to how, you can have a bunch of actors walk through one of these iconic roles. Like there's been a lot of actors who played Batman, and there's been a lot of actors who played Doctor Who, and there's been a lot of actors who've played James Bond. And so she's like, well, why wouldn't there be a lot of actors who play the Penguin?
Mhm.
And one of those could be a woman.
And kind of contribute their own take to the role too. So, like,
Exactly.
that was her point, was like,
Yeah.
when you have that many different people playing essentially the same role, you get their different takes on that role. And this might include like Minnie Driver playing it as opposed to Danny DeVito,
Mhm.
and like that's going to be very, very different takes.
And the Penguin is a really interesting character to do it with. Because so if I can just nerd out for 30 seconds. So the Penguin in the 90s cartoon series never really got the support as the character that most of the villains did. Most of the villains got explored.
Mhm.
The Penguin got one episode that dove into his background and his character, that defined him as a fat, feeling unattractive man
Mhm.
trying to be accepted into villain society just as an equal, wanting
Bingo.
to be seen, right?
Bingo. And that's
that
why you got
became
one
so
episode.
core. It was
Yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah.
but then they never went back to it, right? And with a lot of those issues being tied to
Why would they,
physical
Don? He's still
appearance.
fat.
Exactly.
tied
We
to
said
physical
that.
appearance being a sexual viability, right? It made sense to take this character and readjust the perspective into a female one, where those things are hammered on more in our daily society, I think.
I love that in doing a female penguin in this, they made her into, and they talk about the article, a Mae West type burlesque singer.
Yeah.
Who is also a mother, and kind of, I don't want to give stuff away, but they kind of show that in creating this, burlesque singer who's a mother and, very charismatic, there is a much darker side to her. And it's so fun. There's wigs. There's
Instantly darker than most versions of the Penguin we've seen. I was impressed.
I appreciate it. So the show's on Amazon streaming now, available now, Amazon Prime, and you get the first scene with her in the first episode, and it's her doing her lounge performance on what is the name of the ship called? It's
the iceberg.
Yeah. And so she's doing this lounge performance. She's like tall, broad shoulders, sultry, beautiful voice. Everybody in the room is super into it. Like there's no irony to it. It's just, she's this,
She's
wonderful
good,
lounge
yeah.
singer. Yeah, she's good. She's attractive. Everyone's like flirting with her. She's flirting back. She's like, I just really appreciated that they took they kept the sort of visual presentation of the character pretty true to form, except she's tall. But then still gave her that sort of traditional lounge singer, sultry, sexy, seductive thing, which I'm curious how that plays out in the show.
I just, in the, to be a little bit meta about this, I love the contrast between the thing we just discussed, which is the safest thing in the world, which is like, oh my God, a fat football player, going to, oh my God, we're going to recast one of the most iconic villains in the comic book universe as a fat woman. Wow.
Yeah, it's quite the shift. And this is, the pedigree going with this, like we said, like these are the people who created Batman the Animated Series, which is like revered as one of the best representations of Batman ever.
It defined what Batman was to my generation.
It also defined, or I would say redefined, what an animated show could be. Also, like up to that point, animated shows were like He-Man and Transformers, like not a whole lot of serious storytelling going on. And Batman the Animated Series took it to a completely different artistic level. And it sounds like they're doing a similar thing with this show because they're on streaming. They're not limited by the restrictions of a network in terms of what kind of stories they can tell.
And I'm really looking forward to some of their re-envisioning of some of these characters. So like, again, a lot of the Batman villains tend to be super versions of mental instabilities, psychoses, or difficulties people are having. So Harley Quinn, when she's introduced up until current, has been a superpowered version of codependency, right? That is the characters, all thing is glomming onto somebody and trying to be everything for them, right? This new version is updating the character a little bit with the idea of, rather than codependency, they're turning her into the dark empath, which fits. It's more of a pop psychology of the modern time. But it's
more powerful.
Fits more the character where she uses this bubbly personality to get close to somebody, but inside is the scheming psychiatrist and psychologist that the character is, and processes all the information she gets while your defenses are down to destroy you. And that sounds fascinating.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take. Harley Quinn is a fascinating character because you can kind of see where she came from, like from the male mind, but she's so fucking awesome that eventually, just by virtue of the character's popularity, grew and changed and became something more unique and independent and identifiable. Till now we have this version of her in this show, which I think is going to be very exciting.
I love what you just said, Michael, because she's such a good character. She transcended the male mind. The creator.
I mean, is that not what happened?
Totally accurate. It's totally accurate. A plus, no notes.
I also love that we get Fat Alfred in this.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise.
There was a point where, I don't know, like I think there's some interaction with him and Batman. Then he's like, "I'll get you some tea," and they do like a wide shot of the Bat Cave, and it's like, "Oh my god, there's so many stairs." And it's just like
that's why Alfred's always been thin.
Yeah, and just like there should be a kitchen in the Bat Cave.
Yeah,
he's going to be making
to force
like
your like older manservant to go up and down those stairs.
Well, they got the bat pole, for fuck's sake. Use that.
I'm sorry. Yes, hold your butler's tray. Yeah,
I mean that would be a great visual. And at least in the TV series, the bat pole goes up too.
Oh God, they did that, didn't they?
They did.
Oh,
I loved it.
Did they just reverse the
Why
footage?
do you think everybody wanted a bat pole? No. There's a platform that went up the pole.
Okay. I thought they just like slid down it and then played it in reverse.
No. Although that would have been even funnier. But might have questioned people like, wait a minute,
how does that work?
What kind of pole is that, Robin?
Okay.
Anyway, check out Batman: The Caped Crusader. It's on Amazon Prime. The entire thing is streaming. They've already, I think, just pulled the lever on season 2 this week, like past weekend. They announced it.
Nice.
So it's very exciting.
I've only seen that first episode, but I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, it very much feels like it. Even the animations. All right. We'll get out of it. We can talk about this forever.
I just have one thing to say to Michael.
No.
The Eagles here. Shut up.
Here we are.
So, welcome, Fat Watch 2024. We're here. We got to come down a little bit. We flew too close to the sun, getting all giddy about Batman.
We got a little dizzy.
Yeah. And we have an article from Pop Sugar by Chandler Plant talking about how all patients deserve dignified health care, not just the thin ones.
I love this article.
What a hot take.
Well, no, I love this article for the unobvious reasons. So yes, it is an article about, oh my God, this just in, water is wet. So yes. So it talks about how heavier patients, bigger patients, face discrimination, specifically in equipment, like
my joke was that it is a hot take and it super shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. No, right. But what I like about it, I mean, that's good enough. But what I also like, or maybe like even more is the way to say it, is that it really aggregates data about really how many people are turned away. What is the weight capacity? What are the percentages of people who don't seek medical attention? How many people are impacted by this? I love that it's data driven because so often you're in these conversations with people and it just turns into arm waving. Well, lots of people and I had trouble and people and lots of people and this has numbers.
And the really great thing about it is it's also very clearly laid out where for me, as somebody who's, my eyes glaze over when I see a wall of text. They have sections where the first is intro, then the second, there's a header, MRI weight restrictions. Third, assumptions about patients and what patients have to deal with when people treat them a certain way. Fourth, the consequences, literally what happens when all of these things come together. Here's what it is. Here's how it's supported by the data. And then at the bottom, the solutions. And I like that because a lot of times I catch this, like when we'll get to this later in the episode, but you're talking to somebody and some misconception comes up, or is it really all that bad? Like somebody just doesn't get it. And you're trying to like remember the way to present the information.
Exactly.
And it's all kind of scattered because you're also emotionally flustered by like, what I didn't expect to have to try and educate someone in this moment. So like, this is so clearly organized. It's so helpful as a resource like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it also laid out a couple things in there that like, so one of the stories that they talk about there are many hospitals in the United States where they don't have the equipment they need to do like MRIs, for example, for larger people. So they refer their patients that need those larger machines to the zoo. Right?
Okay. Which I feel like we have talked about this on the podcast before. I know I've had many discussions, and Don because I know people that have been told that, but also I have just heard that like, that's not a thing. Like
that's a thing.
I have experienced this.
Yeah.
So
I've seen it.
I regularly have knee issues because I'm a big guy and I try to walk, which is not always the best combination.
You fool.
Right. Yeah. So I have knee issues in both knees, and every once in a while I'll lose use of a knee for a couple days. But when I went to try and get treatment for it about 12 years ago, right, I made the appointment to go to the MRI, got to the MRI, and was told when in the room, we can't fit you on this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't use this for you. You're going to have to go to a veterinary clinic to get it done, where they do it for horses, right?
Yeah. Oh, I had a friend who was told point blank, the zoo.
Yes, I left and never went back. I have never gotten my knees treated because I don't want to deal with it.
Yes, again. And I know that's a thing that people are told, but I was researching this before.
I misunderstood.
That this is not. Zoos don't do this. There are not like SeaWorld, like there's not a SeaWorld waiting room where there are penguins and a whale and fat people. And that but like, I'm shocked because they linked this TikTok, and I also, there's Reddit threads and everything of people saying like, oh yeah, that's what we do. It's like, no, you just say that and you like clap your hands.
So you're saying the medical professionals are using it as a way to get the fat person out of the room and not have to worry about them anymore. And they don't actually send them.
It's interesting you should say this because they did not offer me a referral. I do remember that. They're just like, you're going to have to go find a veterinary clinic on your own. So
yeah, I don't think it's to get the person out of the room. I think it's like they're trying to imagine who could possibly handle this freak. And a veterinary clinic. Oh, SeaWorld. Oh, the zoo.
And that it is like just that they're like, well, I'm a doctor. I know MRIs. I don't ever actually operate the MRI. I know that they make MRIs that hold up to 2,000 pounds, and that is a piece of veterinary equipment.
Right. So therefore go to the zoo.
Trevor, that's a really interesting point. I've never verified that. You're right.
But if you show up at SeaWorld, you're in for a rude awakening.
Well, because
I feel like they're going to throw me in a tank and throw fish at me.
You should be lucky for that. I don't think it's going to happen at all.
I mean, I love herring.
Nobody gets
That's
free
what
fish.
the good dolphins get, Don.
That's right. Nobody gets free fish. There's no free fish, Don. That's what we try to teach the kids.
You get sardines.
No such thing as free fish.
One that like this is just a breakdown in like reality, I guess, with the medical field, and just like that. In researching this, I saw that like there's some veterinary practices and stuff that like have policies about not taking humans because they get so many people who have just kind of been like vaguely referred by doctors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I think Dan and I know someone who was told that by their doctor, and they contacted the zoo, and the zoo was like, that's not a thing. Yeah. That's
unsurprisingly.
This is wild. I guess, because I know people who have been told that. Have been told that. But then how do you follow up on that? Okay. And then what happens when you do?
See, but here's the thing we're kind of glossing over that is in the article. So you're told, go to the zoo, go to SeaWorld, seek veterinary assistance. That is the point at which the fat person taps out.
Yes.
Yep. Right.
That is the point at which the fat person taps out and seeks no further treatment, as Don was just saying. And so that's part of in the article, they talk about that as part of the consequence of this gap in treatment and diagnoses, is that people, you solve the problem by telling the people to stop looking, basically, is the result.
So there's an art. They talked to 3 experts: Tigris Osborne of NAFA, podcast fan favorite,
Super
Angel
Tigris.
Austin of Sacred Space for Fat Bodies, and also the interim executive director of the Association for Size Diversity and Health, and Esther Tam, a registered dietitian who is a weight inclusive dietitian and nutritionist. And in the article, Angel Austin says, it's not just access. It is, I am purposefully making sure that the message is sent to people of a certain size that you do not have a value in these systems, that you not belong, and that you're, quote, unquote, too far gone. It is not our responsibility to help you. And so people are tapping out because they are basically being told, you are not a human. You have to go to the zoo. You have to go to SeaWorld. It is dehumanizing to an actual tangible level because they are sending you where animals are sent.
And I mean, Tigris kind of nails the point home at the end of that, which is, this behavior and this way of being treated makes people think like these people are going to let me die anyway, as she says. What's the point of going to these facilities and being traumatized? They're not going to help me.
Right. If the end of the rainbow is always lose weight, fatty, then why bother to try? Why try this hard? If you're only going to get hit with, you should lose weight. That's my diagnosis.
Yeah. So the FatWise part of it is that this article exists as an education tool.
Yes. And I think it's a very good article to send to your aunt, to share on Facebook, to share with your doctor friends.
I also just want to point out like the story that I told about this, being told I need to find a veterinarian to get an MRI, right? That is not only did that story just knock me out from the seeking of it, I never told that story to any mainstream person I know.
Why would you?
Because how embarrassing is that?
Exactly.
And so that becomes an issue that becomes very private to fat people that most mainstream people never heard about. So when someone reads that article and sees my friend was told to go to a zoo for medical care, that might actually move the needle in a way that I didn't because I didn't share my experience.
Bingo.
So,
yes.
I think it might, but I think also it might just perpetuate this idea because there is there is never the follow-up.
That's fair.
And I think that is just like, I think that's why it's just so deep and why there are, TikTok doctors who were told in class that like, oh, well, with super morbidly obese patients, they have to go to SeaWorld. And the students are like, go to SeaWorld. And they're not. That it is just this like,
fable. It's a fable.
Yeah, fabled, but also like there are so many things in my life where I was told in school and I found out later, like, no, that's actually just nonsense. It's not in the textbook. It is just
perpetuated.
Teachers have passed down this misinformation generation to generation.
Well, that's an interesting thing too, because if you're, and I don't want to like lump all teachers in the same category, but I would say like if you're a professor and all of your area of work is in teaching and not in practical application, then you never necessarily actually have to test the theories you've been given. You just repeat them.
Yes.
In this case. And so that's kind of a strange way to perpetuate misinformation.
Well, because there's no check, right? Because no one ever, because you don't hear from the patient. No patient comes back to you and says, doctor, I tried the zoo and they turned me away. So what else you got? Nobody does that. Nobody does that.
I would, so listener, if you are a listener who has personal experience with this and has the follow-up to it,
please let us know.
Yeah, because it's just, I felt crazy reading this article because there are so many experts in it. And I know that this is a thing that people are told, but I want the answer to, has that ever, like what happens? Because I know that most people just stop because they are told, they told me to go to SeaWorld. And then we have our friend who called the zoo, was told to go to the zoo, called the zoo. And then just, there was never the follow-up.
I mean, and larger MRIs do exist. Like,
yeah. If you want to do a deep dive into this, Reagan Chastain, my hero, does a deep dive into getting trying to find an MRI machine for her partner. And just only because she is such a data queen and looking like she knows, they can tell her the specs of the MRI and she knows what that means. So she can hunt the MRI machine down. And she spent days on the phone with these people. And guess what? The zoo was never an option.
God, wow. Excellent. That's some good info, Trevor. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess keeping the theme, we started really high. We were soaring.
And now we're in a free fall.
Yeah. We're keeping the theme of kind of navigating fat phobia. And particularly, we all kind of were just talking and have like things around family and fat phobia, and either like backslides or front slides or side slides or mudslides,
things, updates.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we even have a listener mail listener letter on the subject.
Do we want to start with that since it's a good.
I think that's a great transition. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's start with a good old fashioned mailbag.
It's a different mailbag. It's a
voice mailbag. Yeah. Let's get that juicy mailbag music going. All right. No need to read it. Let's just play it.
Hey guys, I have a story/question, and I'm really hoping that Don has his spicy moods going on today, because his spicy answers are always the ones that I love the most. So my husband and I own a trailer in a trailer park. We spend a little bit of time up here, usually by ourselves. But as the good gunkles that we are, one time we invited our friends' children up to come spend the day with us and just hang out and give mom and dad a break. So we're hanging out, and the kids say they want to go to the park. No problem. Let's go to the park. So we go for a walk down to the park at the trailer park. The kids are playing on the playground, doing their thing, don't care, about anything going on. And this little bit of an older kid, probably about maybe 9-10 years old, comes up to me and just starts, "Oh my God, why are you so fat? Oh my God, do you ever stop eating? You are so fat, it's crazy. Oh my God, you are just so fat. Why are you so fat?" And this went on for like 5 minutes. I was just in shock. I didn't even know what to do. Thank God my friends' kids weren't around to hear it, because I didn't really handle it all that well. And had he been an adult, I might have had something to say to him. I hope I would. I think I would now that I've listened to enough of your podcasts. But because this was a child, I had no idea what to say or what to do. I literally just ignored him. And when he walked away, the kids came back over and they were done playing in the park, and we walked back to the trailer. So Don, I'm looking for some spicy advice if this would help again. Plus all the other, level-headed advice that the rest of you guys and all the listeners might have. I'm just wondering what else you would have done. Just as an aside, the kid's mom is a teacher, and as I was telling them that, when we got home, it was, all bodies are different, so that kind of advice. Just try to educate. But yeah, that's my question, and love to hear your answers.
Wow. Oh boy, what the fuck?
Okay, so first impression: if you are in a public playground and that happens, generally they have these things called garbage cans there. You can dispose of your garbage children in. That is totally socially acceptable as far as I'm concerned.
I think they're called garbage pail kids, aren't they?
They are. Yeah. Okay. So kids can suck. Yeah.
I mean, they're people, and people suck. So
I have been in this exact same situation at a pool party where someone brought their kids, and I deserved everything I got. This was on me. We had a very over the top friend who was very obnoxious, right? And one of the little kids got into that, and she just started needling him, right? And all of us kept egging her on. She called out his douchebaggery beautifully, and he could not parry it because she was 8, right? And then she turns around to me because she's getting so much good attention for needling him, and she goes, "Why are your boobs so big? Your boobs are bigger than my mom's. Why are your boobs so big?"
Oh,
I did not handle it well. I turned around to her, and I tried to do the ignoring thing. little bit. And then she kept coming after me. And eventually I was like, oh, wow. Does your mom feel bad about that? Having such small boobs?
Oh, wow.
Like, would she feel bad if you were calling her out like that? And the kid, like, she didn't know what to do. Right. Like, and I'm not saying that as a point of pride. I should not have behaved that way. So deep breaths,
you know what? I think there is a way to save that one. I think my comeback would have been like, wow, why would you say that about your mom?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying
That's
for.
a little more judo,
I needed to put it a little bit more offensively because I was immature. This was like 20 years ago.
And the thing is, I mean, as the fat kid growing up, ignore was my number one. And I don't think I had a number two strategy. Like you ignore it. It's because there's nothing to combat. It's just discrimination.
Listener, I know that was frustrating, but I think you played it right.
Yeah.
Like
there's nothing to do. And then
there's no win. Especially if you don't know who their parents are. If you know who their parents are, go sit by the parents for a minute, see if that continues, and then watch the parents. If the parents don't respond, then they are absentee parents, and you can either go after the parents or there you go. Well, I'm pro going after parents.
Well, in so many situations, you don't know who the parents are, or or they're worse.
And think about that for a second. That means this unattended child is that way because they have absentee parents.
Well,
can't blame the child for that.
And this anti-fat rage came from somewhere. And
that's what I was thinking.
It came from somewhere.
Well, I think also it's just like there's only so much you can really like logically discuss with like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Like because I would be like, well, like that's so interesting. Why do you think that's a problem?
Yeah.
That is
like I think it's just like because you're so fat. Like I don't
right.
I feel like it's just a feat.
Yeah. Well, I think what's key is that in all these cases, you've identified the point of the child's point is to make you upset and to experience power in a life where they are powerless. And so I think the more you can do to diffuse that, ignoring is one way to do that. Like, you ain't going to get me. And the other way to do that is like Trevor said, like, wow, how come? Why would you say that? Or you can even play into it. Like, yeah, I do. Why? What's your point? Yes, I do eat a lot. What's your point?
Like in my head, it's just like you have a water bottle, like a squeezy water bottle, and you just, whenever the kids
like
there,
a true
just
cat
like,
owner.
like spray them with the water bottle, make them go away. Like,
I don't think we use enough squirt guns in society.
Yeah, super soaker. Super soaker loaded with lemon juice.
Oh.
But this does feed into our broader topic of dealing with anti-fat issues coming up unexpectedly from friends, family members, or small children in the street. What do you do?
That's a good question, Don.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, like, in some ways I'm protected from this because people know it's what I talk about a lot. And I don't have that much contact with my family. We don't talk about it that much. But usually what I encounter is, people, if I have something to say about, fat phobia or whatever, people sort of treat it like, oh, that's his religious belief, or that's like, it's not true, but we respect it. It's it's sort of treated as we're not going to go down that road with him because he'll only argue with us.
Right. So I had an interesting experience that was sort of in that vein where it was like, I think I finally got that was the case. Whereas before I thought there was like genuine, change and acceptance. So I went on a siblings trip with my two sisters, and like to clarify, like we're very close, and we're all straight sized people. I think of the three of us, I'm the fattest. So we go on this trip. We've done it before, and on the way, I start picking up from my older sister some like at the end of the first day, we got pastries in the morning, and then we got this great lunch somewhere, and then we got just ate food on a trip. And then at the end of the day, she was like, oh man, like we ate so much today and we barely exercised. This is when we were in the grocery store shopping to like have a meal to cook while we were out. and like we, basically was commenting how we hadn't balanced our day.
You hadn't earned your food.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, yeah, like eating and exercise can be unrelated activities. They don't, these things don't have to be connected in any way. And she kind of just let that go. My little sister, I love her for this. She's like, she loves sweets. And she's like, just doesn't care. Like, she'll be like, oh, let's get cookies. I love cookies. Like, let's have,
It's a woman after my own heart.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's very refreshing to have somebody who can just sort of express desire for food and foods that are like usually shamed, and not worry about it. And so she was like, let's get cookies. And my older sister was very resistant to this idea. And I have to say, this whole time, like, cooking in our family is a big thing. Food is a big thing. There's no like diet talk usually like this. So this for me was kind of surprising. Like my older sister was just very like, well, I don't know if we should. And like, oh, there's not going to be any good. And it turned into like a food quality thing. Like there's a lot of food snobbery around like, oh, well, they're going to be gross. Like whatever. I was like, well, we can get ones that you can just make. Like, you don't have to like get packaged cookies or whatever. And so we get there and we're sort of looking at the different brands. And my older sister is just sort of shitting on everything. And meanwhile, my little sister is like, was excited to just have a treat to share with her siblings and like having to kind of put up with this weird food shaming thing. And
what's so weird to me is like your older sister, it's an easy out. It's like, don't eat the cookies you don't like. Easy.
But she couldn't let us have them. That was the thing. And I said, like, you don't have to have them. Like and I was sitting there the whole time, like really surprised, like what is happening right now? This is never like, what is going on? And so
it's internal stuff. Yeah.
It's of course.
Where does that come from? Do you think?
You mean in the
family control?
There's a lot of food stuff in our family in terms of like what food is good enough to eat, in the sense of if you eat junk food, you kind of get what you deserve. But if you eat quality food, then it's okay. Even if the quality food is really rich or fatty or whatever, it's okay because it was really well made. It was well prepared. It was proper. It's the perfect representation of that cuisine.
It's calories that are worth it.
Yeah. But only if you exercise first. Apparently, I thought we had ditched this trend. This is kind of my point, was like a couple years ago, I shared about how my sister had put my mom kind of on blast a little bit for my mom being like, oh, is there such thing as a fat dancer? And my older sister was like, of course there is. Fat people can do all kinds of stuff that you don't think they can. And so I had thought we had cleared this hurdle. Like I was just like, great, like my sisters get it. And then my older sister was just like really, and so we were like, oh, I want this flavor of cookie. And then, my older sister didn't. We're like, well, let's just get both. And she like had a fit. She was like, no, we couldn't possibly eat that many.
Oh my God.
Like she was so,
oh my God, she wouldn't survive a day at my house.
No, like it was ridiculous.
Well, it kind of reminds me, like I said, it's obviously an internal issue, her relationship with food. It's her relationship with food and it's just leaking out on everybody else. But it also reminds me of sort of, the whole argument against so many things in society of like, I would never do that, so neither can you.
Yeah.
Right? This should be illegal. Why? Because I don't want you to do it.
You think about getting two kinds of cookies.
You may only marry the kind of cookie that I approve of.
Exactly.
Well, and guess what happened? We got both. We enjoyed both. We had leftovers.
Oh my God, Michael, how many people died?
And we took them back on the car trip home and we ate them. Like it was fine. It was fucking fine. Yeah. It was but it was like such a crazy thing to make a stand on that. And the thing that really killed me about it was like, I was feeling slimed, but like, whatever, I've dealt with this before. What really pissed me off was that my little sister was so excited. She was like, I love desserts. I love sweet things. I want some cookies. Let's all have cookies together. Like that was it. It was just joyful expression of sharing food together. And it didn't matter that they weren't like scratch made New York Times bestseller cookies. They could just be fucking like put them in the oven, dough and like, it's fine. And my older sister was just shitting on it every step of the way. And I hate that. Yeah. It's like like Dan said, you don't have to have it yourself, but don't yuck our yum.
Yeah. I mean, and believe me, I am probably one of the biggest food snobs you will encounter. And I think everybody on the podcast can attest to that. And there'd be times like, Trevor wants this. I mean, to me, it's crap. And he'll like, do you want to taste this? I'm like, I think I know what that tastes like. And if I'm in doubt, I will taste it. Well, yep, that's every bit as off like that. To me, there's like that like Mother's oatmeal cookie. It tastes like Mother's oatmeal cookie chemical flavoring, and every oatmeal cookie under a certain amount of money tastes like that money. You know, it's like
I don't even know you anymore. How dare you say that about Mother's oatmeal cookies?
It all tastes the same. It tastes like a dozen other cookies on the market. It's just a question of which package you prefer.
No,
well, there's only so many ways you could make oatmeal cookies taste different from each other.
Well, especially when you're trying to keep it under, 10 cents a cookie. But anyway, my point is I don't have to like it for Trevor to like it,
Yeah. Well, I think there's the thing that Dan should be worried when I'm like, Dan, do you want to try this? And I know it's like will be especially revolting to him, and I want to see what his reaction is.
Yeah.
Trevor the troll.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and usually, and I do have a certain amount of food curiosity where I'm like, I know I'm going to hate it, but I want to know how exactly I hate it.
I'm going to hold that over your head the next time we do a Brock's Taste Test challenge for our Patreon
but
page.
that I sort of know how I'll hate, so that's easy. That's easy. I know
He's already got that one locked down.
That's like, what do you hate about skydiving? The falling. That's easy.
So, Dan, it's the landing.
Yeah.
No, it's the falling. Landing's great. And if you don't, who cares? You never know.
So my family thing, it's kind of, I don't know, like the opposite of yours, Michael, where, I've mentioned my mom just moved to LA. There's a whole new dynamic that we're navigating. Kind of like Captain Phillips, like I'm the parent now. And there's a lot of stuff around, like, it's still very early days of this like massive move from my mom. My mom moved across the country. She's settling in here. We're finally getting the rest of her stuff on Monday. So she'll be able to like be moved in and settled properly. But like a lot of concern around like, is she eating enough? And which is, I feel like having concern, like my concerns about that are not taken seriously because I'm fat.
Oh,
well, and I should say the evidence that your siblings have is they only see her when they take her out to a meal,
or they come over for a meal,
and so every time they see her, she's eating. So of course she's eating.
Yeah.
Whereas we see a kind of a different picture.
And also just like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I have more like kind of like nutrient data than them, where it's like, oh, well, she's like eating, like she had dinner. She had like, some cheese and crackers. And it's like, yeah, but like that's
or saltines and butter.
Yes. Saltines and French butter. Like just true. Weird, like, or, she had like some fruit and a muffin and some yogurt, but like, like Yoplait Light or something where it's like, there's like, she needs protein and
yogurt with all the nutrition taken out of it.
And I took her to one of her first doctor's appointments out here, and I was there and the doctor mentioned like, oh, like I want to check your protein levels. Like I want to make sure you're getting enough protein. But like, so I feel like it's just like such this mind fuck for me, because it's like, I am kind of like obsessing and feeling concern over my mom's diet.
And you're the only one, including her.
Yes.
Who's doing
but
that.
It's also just like a weird, like I'm the parent and I'm trying to like not give myself a complex or her. Cause I know that there's like a lot, like, my mom was very good about not giving us weird food stuff, but there was still some. And I know there was even more with her. Like with my grandma, that my grandma gave to my mom, like weird complexes and stuff around food.
Yeah, food trauma.
So it's just like, it's a very weird thing to be navigating. And also like, there's a big thing, just, I feel like in diet culture, food culture right now about like protein, and where it's basically just like kind of turning into protorexia, where I've been like, what are ways my mom can get more protein, but like not have it turn into this weird like obsession and fixation with protein and like making weird like hyper, cottage cheese with blended chicken breast or something like.
Oh boy!
Oh, you laugh. It happens.
Yeah, like
no, I am not laughing. I'm crying.
And it's just such a weird thing. And also, this is like a little aside. Like listeners who are caregivers and full-time caregivers, I see you because I am dealing with such a small level of it. And like, I have a lifestyle that can accommodate that well. Like people who are caregivers for their elderly parents who have their own kids at high pressure jobs and stuff, like, I don't know how the fuck they do it.
Do you do that? Yeah.
Because I have a lot of spare time and it is just consuming all of my time and bandwidth sometimes. So like caregivers, you are seen. And I don't really know, like I try to send you some bandwidth or something because Jesus fucking Christ, it is rough out there and it's just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a strange flip to have to deal with.
But I what I think is salient to our main topic about that is just the worry about food and the worry about the nutritional value of food and so much of it is like, it's not about policing her to go like, no, mom, eat this, not that.
Yeah.
It's like, I think saltines and French and good quality French butter. I recommended that butter. I'm like, I love that she loved it. Saltines I have an issue with, but we'll move on. Did I mention the food snobbery?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but no, sure. And she loves salt. Okay, great. Whatever. And so, but what the problem becomes if that's dinner and the only calories she's getting that whole time. And the only reason that matters is because it's impacting her quality of life. You can see it in her physical, her physical detriment.
And she has gotten more, like, I know she's getting like more proper meals from the grocery store up the street because like she still can't really cook. Like she's still kind of limited. She has some kitchen stuff, but not other stuff. So I'm hoping it'll change, but it's so weird to like be in this new era of like kind of being a parent and also having to go to doctors' offices and appointments and navigate that as a fat person.
Yeah.
When it's like, I don't even need to be here. Like, I don't have it. Like, there's nowhere for me to sit. And I'm like, I shouldn't even be here.
Yes. There's nowhere to sit. And I shouldn't be even sitting here. I was going to share something which I thought was interesting relative to, again, my whole outlook on this. So I was talking with a female friend of mine and we're about the same age, so older. And she was saying how she was looking at pictures of her from, let's say 20 years ago. And she realizes, wow, I'm so much heavier now. She is not at all fat. There is no stretch of the imagination in which she is fat. It's more that thing about, people get older and they get a bit heavier. But in her mind, it was like, it's stark. And I appreciate that. There are pictures of me when I was younger. And yeah, I was a lot leaner. But, I made the comment like, yeah, you've gone from tiny to merely small. And she looked at me and she said, yeah, but you don't exactly have the best frame of reference. And she was meaning because I'm a chubby chaser. Mm-hmm. And like everybody looks small to me. And, I'm like, okay, fair point. Well, because, one thing that we acknowledge on the podcast is that if you're in the company of fat people, if you are attracted to fat people, you kind of have you don't draw the line where other people draw the line as to what is fat, what is big, what is whatever. And they're all fungible anyway. They're all sort of like in the mix, and maybe even you change your opinion given different times in your life. But what I thought was interesting is that I sometimes forget where my lines are drawn, what my glasses filter.
Yeah, there's definitely a perspective issue that I guess doesn't
people
usually
to
come
see
up.
Those things is half the fight. So I've talked on the podcast before about an experience I had with my dad just raging against Lizzo when she came on the television screen, complaining about why is this fat person on here singing music I don't like. Like,
and this was a while ago, right?
This was a while ago, but it bugged me, right? And I talked to him about it again, and recently. And part of the problem is my father has recently discovered there's this thing called empathy that he's heard of in the past, doesn't have any of,
never had any use for, really.
Yeah, so it's really interesting him discovering. Oh, that's actually a thing. Like, you people have feelings, right?
Well, and it's this right-wing thing of like, oh, I have empathy because now it's happening to me.
That's very much the case. But because it's happening to him, now that my father has gained weight rapidly, he is starting to basically, when I have this conversation, I had to point out to him, like, you said this in front of me, who you know is fat, right? And in front of your wife, who was once fat, and to the point where it's part of her identity, right? Like, most people looking at my stepmother now would think she's a very straight-sized person, but she's lived a large portion of her life as a fat person. And both of us took offense to that. And he couldn't understand, like, but I don't see you as fat. Why would you take offense at me saying that, right? But sometimes, if we have these loved ones in our lives that we have no choice over, right? Yeah, having to explain the concept of empathy can be painful, and sometimes can be like banging your head on the wall. Right now, I'm feeling a little bit rewarded because I'm starting to see the needle move, right? So I have a little bit of hope.
Take the win.
Sometimes that's what you've got to do. And I can't find solace in it. My father's never going to be someone I go to for comfort when I'm feeling slimed. But now I can understand, like, he's trying to be less of the problem because he's starting to understand.
Okay, but is he doing it about other things or still only the things that directly impact him?
Really only the things that directly impact him.
Yeah. And so there could be a bridge. If you wanted to do this, it's not your responsibility. But, to try to make that bridge of like, remember how you used to be so anti-fat and now you seem to have sympathy for it? Imagine all the other things that you could have sympathy for, even though it's not happening to you.
Yeah, I think that might take another 20 years of repeating that same sentence over and over. But yeah, you got a point. You do have a point. But if the same way that I don't mind getting something off a tall shelf for a short friend, I don't mind explaining empathy for a friend who has very little of it. However, in both situations, it's not my responsibility.
I mean, I think the big takeaway from all of these is just kind of like, we just got to keep moving along, keep feeling, living the human experience and having empathy instead of just apathy or self-feeling.
And none of these things is the beginning or the end of the world. Like, I am fine with my older sister. We had one bad moment on an otherwise great trip, and whatever. There it is.
Yeah, and I think how this all ties back into the listener's audio letter is, I think there is a lot of freedom in recognizing that although you may feel slimed, a way out of it is to go, wow, this is so about them and nothing to do with me.
And I mean, I think the defining characteristic of being slimed is you have this thing dumped on you that you don't know how to get rid of.
Right.
And you're just stuck with it. You're just stuck with the shitty feeling. Write us about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can sort of vent to us. We'll take it. We'll share it. We'll turn it into something positive, or at least get it out of you. And this is the way you get through stuff, right? It's like you share about it.
And just because you can't throw those shitty kids in the trash can doesn't mean we can't.
I'm
imagining you bring it over here, and I will find a trash compactor for you, my friend. We will make it work.
I'm imagining Don with your this special child equipment that puts them in trash cans and seals it. And you can even drive that thing to the river. And
I would do it.
Like you twirl a fork to pick up spaghetti.
Yeah.
Like twirl the fork on the top of the kid's hair and pick him up by the fork and toss him in the trash, fork and all.
I'm there.
That's how much I eat.
We're going to make a new device to put on Amazon. Trevor, do we have a tip for the day?
My tip is, so it's Fat Liberation Month, and during August, Fat Liberation Month, if you make a donation of $5 or more to NAFA, you can get a special edition Fat Joy sticker featuring arts by Bats Langley.
Yay.
A friend of the pod. Art, I don't know. We love bats. We love NAFA. So if you go to nafa.org/give and make a gift of at least $5, fill out the form, including your mailing address, you will get a fat sticker. It is lovely. It's cute. I'll link you to the post where you all can see it so you can react.
Ooh. He's a dancing fat man.
Yeah.
He's kicking up his feet. He's got some headphones on.
So for just $5 or more, you get the sticker. And then if you, in addition to a $5 donation, sign up to become a passionate ongoing donor, you get a second fat sticker with another fun fat character. So you could get 2 stickers.
Collect the set.
It's very cute. It's very fun. It's a way to give yourself a treat and support NAFA and Fat Liberation. And, do the work to helping do the work to figure out what the fuck happens with MRIs.
Where is this zoo that everyone's
Yeah.
going to?
Yeah. So check it out, nafa.org/give.
For the bit today, I misread the assignment. I thought we were talking about the evolution of some of our relationships. So I did a little bit more
no, that's still
evolution.
accurate.
Yeah,
That's still accurate.
I did a little deep dive into human evolution and some of the awesome superpowers that we have gotten from evolution over the years.
I love
So-
superpowers.
Humankind has developed some amazing abilities that we may not always appreciate. For example, sweat. Sweat is the system we use to cool off our bodies and prevent them from exhaustion and overheating. And it's one of the most efficient methods found in the animal kingdom. It's one of the reasons why we might have actually been able to rise up to where we are right now, because just about every other freaking species on Earth has to stop whatever it's doing and perform an activity to cool off, right? So some of the other methods in the animal kingdom to cool off really suck, and I am grateful we do not have to do them. Which of the following ways is not an actual way that some animals have to use to cool off? Right?
Okay.
1, animals will literally shit on themselves.
Oh,
2, seals will pee on their feet. 4, kangaroos will lick themselves until they are drenched with saliva.
Good
Or
Lord.
4, hippos super concentrate heat in their dung and urine and forcefully expel it from their body.
Ha.
oh.
Most
I
of
mean-
these sound impossible or otherwise implausible.
I know that
3 of them are real. I looked them up online. Thank you, Smithsonian Magazine.
Well, Trevor is absolutely a hippo expert, so I
I
trust
know
him on this.
hippos can really like project and fling their poop, but I don't know if it's superheated.
Probably if it comes
I'm
from
gonna
inside them and they're
say-
overheated it.
My guess is shitting all over yourself, just because evolutionarily that feels very risky. Like
I'm
that
going
just
to go with
feels
that
risky.
too, I guess,
Yeah.
just because it's
Whereas
we're
peeing all over
going
yourself
with-
is hot, right?
We're
Right.
going with vultures literally shitting on themselves. Well, no, in fact, vultures and herons will both shit all over their legs in order
Oh,
to
God.
wet their legs so they can cool
Wow.
off.
Oh, but I think that's different. I think legs is different because all over. I was trying to
I
picture.
didn't say all over. You said all over. I said
Okay.
vultures will literally shit on themselves. That's it.
Okay.
The incorrect answer is hippos concentrating heat in their dung and expelling it violently.
But they
I
don't.
know
do that?
Trevor knows about hippos, so I put the
Yeah.
forceful expulsion in there as a
A red.
red herring. Okay, so not all of us have this particular superpower, but enough of us do where it's a notable thing. While the ability to consume milk and dairy products developed all around the world independently, we still tend to think of Europe as being the center for dairy cuisine. Even though Europeans were already producing milk and dairy foods about 5,000 years ago, the majority of people back then didn't have the gene to tolerate milk. But then something happened to change evolution in the blink of an eye, according to evolutionary biologists. Most Europeans acquired the gene relatively quickly. What do scientists believe happened? 1, famine or diseases most likely killed off everyone who couldn't eat dairy. 2, dairy-eating cultures grew physically larger and more dominant, pushing out the non-dairy eaters. 3, non-dairy eating cultures in Europe were eliminated by the aggressive dairy eating cultures violently. Or 4, the invention of butter most likely exploded across Europe's trade networks, introducing dairy into the diets of many before dairy was regularly available, priming Europe to digest dairy.
I don't, because butter isn't that transportable.
It doesn't
is
have,
Yeah.
well, and it has no lactose. I'm going with number 3, Don.
That's non-dairy eating cultures killing off everyone else.
Yes.
And Michael,
Okay.
what are you going with?
I'll stick with my original instinct and go with Trevor and number 1. And we'll
And
see.
the correct answer is, in fact, number 1. Right now, they believe that basically circumstances for disease could have been, or excuse me, famine could have been headed off by basically people having a supply of preservable cheese that got them through those hard times.
Oh.
Or having
That makes
live
more
cows
sense.
providing dairy to keep them alive.
Yeah, I
So-
guess I was thinking about milk specifically, but cheese, I guess that's a different thing.
Well, I thought, never mind. Yes, that makes sense.
Now, I apologize to the culture whose name I'm about to slaughter. The Bajau sea nomads of Southeast Asia are people that have made their living diving for shellfish and other deep sea bounties for generations. Somewhere along the way, they seem to have developed a genetically linked ability to hold their breaths longer than other human beings, with the average Bajau being able to hold their breath for 5 minutes.
Jesus.
While normal humans can at best go 3 to 4, right? With training. So,
well, and they're actually like swimming around. They're not just holding their breath, right? They're actually
going
like,
down,
actively,
swimming,
like, exerting
actively
themselves.
looking for stuff.
Yeah, that's way harder.
So when scientists compared the Bajau to another local population who have the same ancestry but don't have the same deep water diving as a cultural norm, scientists discovered what physiological difference between the Bajau and their genetic cousins. 1, the Bajau have enlarged spleens. 2, the Bajau have smaller but more efficient lungs. 3, the Bajau have incredibly light, porous bones. Or 4, the Bajau lie about how long they can hold their breath.
I think they have smaller but more efficient lungs, because if your lungs are full of more air, it's harder to dive deeper.
Yeah.
So
I'm going with that, Michael.
I'm not saying this makes you wrong, but I'm going to give you one hint because I think this is an interesting trivia fact. The thing they found in them is true of also sea mammals in general.
Oh, they lie?
That they lie about them?
Yes. You cannot trust sea mammals. I've said this before. Otters may be cute, but they are lying bastards.
I'm also just going to go with the smaller lungs.
Okay, we got 2 for smaller lungs. Dan?
I can't think of a reason to switch. Even though I'm probably wrong, I can't think of a reason to switch.
So I'll be wrong.
You're
together.
also lungs. You're all on lungs.
We're all on lungs.
In fact, the correct answer is enlarged spleens.
Really? What the fuck does a spleen do for you?
Apparently, what the spleen does is it holds on to more oxygenated blood. So you have more. It's not holding on to air. It's holding on to oxygenated blood that it releases gradually over that 5 minutes.
I forgot about the spleen. Yeah. Well, I know the spleen filters blood. I didn't realize it held on to oxygen.
Well, what's also interesting is apparently they've also found this in Nepalese Sherpas, where the Sherpas are going up into high atmosphere, low oxygen environments. They get the same mutation over time.
I wonder if you can train your spleen.
That's a good question. So, dear listener, do you have a way that you can train your spleen? Trevor, where could they tell us about that?
We're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there. Leave us 5 stars or a review on your preferred podcast platform. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com, baby. Maybe you're diving for clams, and you've held your breath for however long this episode ends up being, probably closer to an hour. I don't know, you're
past an hour.
You're running out of oxygen like Michael, so
watch out.